Good morning, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop with another edition of Shop Talk. I'll just try to summarize what I think I'm going to cover in this video because sometimes I lead off in different paths and I cover other things. But at the moment, what I'm planning to do first is go through this stack of papers and pick out 4 or 5 of them and answer questions and talk about things that viewers have sent in or, emails, things like that. Then I'm also going to try to talk about viewer gifts, and I have a bunch of those over here just off camera. And then I may get into a little rant about the quote-unquote good boys club, the snobs out there. The video on chocolate, the final video, at the moment I'm recording this, has not come out yet. It won't even come out until tomorrow, but yet they're already on the attack. And I knew they would be. I don't want to get off on that right now, but I may cover that at the very end. I don't want to get myself in a bad mood before I do this. Okay, a question here from Richard Reisner. He's one of the longtime viewers of the channel, and I believe he was a customer at one point, and he's done some work for me. And Richard also sent me a really nice gift. It was a double barrel 20. I'll just say it that way so that YouTube doesn't try to, knock this video down, because you have to be careful which words you use on a lot of videos. Anyway, his question is, when building these mandolins and things and the wood that we have, why do we start off with such thick pieces when we carve them down so thin? Well, there's a number of reasons for that. Let me just get a piece of that and show you. It does appear to be pretty thick, but really in the scheme of things, it's not that terribly thick. There's a considerable arch in this. From the bottom of this to the top of the arch is a little more than a ½ inch thick. Granted, this is thicker than that, but what we do is we join them together like this, and then we run this through the planer or thickness sander or whatever, and take it down to close to the thickness we need before we start carving. So when we actually start carving, we're just about the right thickness. Yeah, there's a little bit more here, but that's just the nature of how it's sawn out of the tree. You can't hardly do much about that. A lot of it depends on the diameter of the tree, for one thing, how big the outer edge is. But also, in addition to that, having that little bit extra thickness helps us flatten it out, because a lot of times when they dry, they warp a little bit, or they cup, or they bow, and so, really, they're not all that extra thick. They're just about right, really. They saw them pretty tight. They try to get as much out of the tree as they can to make more money, obviously, so they're not going to give you anything they don't think they need to give you. If that makes any sense. But it's a good question, Richard, and that is pretty much how it's done. If you just think about this like a tree, this would just be a great big circle, see? And this is just one little split out of that circle. Just a pie cut, basically. And then they take that pie cut and they split that and open that up, and then you have book-matched wood. So anyway, that's how it's done. That's why it's done the way it is. And it really isn't all that much bigger than it should be. Let's see. Here's some viewer stats on the channels just for the last month. It's way back up again. A lot of that is due to that 1918 Gibson L4 that I repaired, and then more of it now is also due to chocolate because it's getting tons of views. There's been over 600,000 views in the last 28 days. That's a lot of views. And there's been more than 9,789,000 minutes of view time. So almost 10 million minutes of view time this month, which is a lot. We added more than 2,500 subscribers, more than 34,000 likes, and more than 1,100 shares, people sharing the videos. That's one way you can really help the channel out, is sharing this, sending the link to your friends and telling them to watch it, And sometimes maybe just to get them into it, instead of telling them to watch the whole hour-long video, say, hey, watch the last 10 minutes of the video. You won't believe this. Or watch the first 5 minutes and watch the last 10 minutes, whatever. Just so that they, see the video and see what's going on, and it might hook them. You just never know. But anyway, the stats on the channel are overall pretty darn good. I have not read these yet, so I'm going to pause and read the next one. This next one is a funny one. It's from my friend Val, who is a lady rancher out in Captain John Creek. And that's out west. And I forget, she's told me 3 or 4 times where she's from, and I forgot. I forget if it's Idaho or Colorado or Wyoming. It's out that way, out there in the big sky country, you know. If you're a follower of these Shop Talks, then you remember when I said she had an erosion ditch that was 1 horse deep, and she put her horse in that ditch and it showed how deep the erosion ditch was. Out here we get an erosion ditch down our driveway that's 6 inches deep, and we think we've got a problem. Anyway, she said she learned something from the channel, and it really helped her this morning. I think this is hilarious. She said she went out to milk this morning, and the goat came in and it had a bleeding udder, a scratch on the udder. So she just went and found her CA glue and glued it up. That's what I've done. I cut myself or especially those weather cracks where in the wintertime where your fingers crack right on the corners. Put CA glue in there, close that up. It's the best thing you can do. I'm telling you, it's a really good idea to do that. Don't spray it with accelerator because it gets really hot and it burns. Let it dry on its own. And even that sometimes can get hot. Don't put very much on it, by the way. Just put just a tiny little drop and keep it closed until it closes up that crack. And the crack won't hurt anymore. I mean, it really does a good job. But that's the first time I've heard of anybody gluing up a goat's udder. You know, if she had asked me, do you think that would work? I'd say, yeah, it'd probably work. But I can honestly say that's one of those things that I have never tried. Val, I'm glad you learned something from the channel. Well, this next one kind of surprised me. I didn't even know it was in the pile here, but Melissa puts these together for me. So this next one is from the Canadian mandolin that I build. If you watched that series on that Canada mandolin, Melissa was really taken with that mandolin. She felt like that was the most beautiful instrument I've ever built. And apparently the owner likes it pretty well too. Here is a note from the owner. It says, "Hello, Jerry. I've been enjoying watching you build mandolins and doing all sorts of complicated musical instrument repairs over the past few years, and I have admired your work tremendously. However, I almost went into shock last week when a courier showed up at the door with a superbly well-wrapped package from Rosa Stringworks." He didn't know he was getting this, by the way. His son-in-law bought him this custom-made mandolin. So I built it on the sly, if you will, and didn't talk about who was getting the mandolin, just that it was going to Canada. The package contained a beautiful new mandolin that, unbeknownst to me, had been ordered some months ago by my son-in-law, Chris. I was blown away by it. What a wonderful gift. I've watched the 3 videos you made of the mandolin build and couldn't help but be impressed. It's not only a beautiful and unique instrument, but the sound is incredible. I already own a Gibson Artist model mandolin, and it sounds really nice. In fact, I thought that the Gibson couldn't be beat, as it is a very good instrument. Well, my new Rosa mandolin has plenty of volume and sustain like no other mandolin I've ever heard. Its tone is incredible. I can truly say the Rosa is by far the finer of the 2 mandolins. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate all the time and care, hard work you put into this. You packaged it extremely well for the shipping, and it arrived to me in perfect condition. From start to finish, you couldn't have done more to make the whole job perfect. Thank you very much for this beautiful Rosa mandolin. I will always treasure it, and his name is Ron. So Ron, I'm so glad you liked the mandolin. Thank you so much for the kind note. I thought you all would like to hear that, just so that you know that the instruments, are appreciated. I don't always hear from the end customer. Most of the time I hear something, but not always. Okay, this next one is from a viewer fan, and his name is Jeffrey. And Jeffrey says, "Good morning, Rosa String Workshop. Yes, I admittedly am one of Jerry's kids." That's a play on Jerry Lewis, obviously. Jerry, a wonderful organization and charity for muscular dystrophy. But Jerry Lewis, they were known as Jerry's kids. And so he's playing on that. He says he's hopelessly addicted to watching Mr. Rosa build and repair instruments. He's hoping that he will learn enough to help him build and repair instruments as well. He's got a couple of questions here. The first question is, how does Jerry and the Rosa String Works Band protect themselves from copyright infringement and, song thievery, lyric thievery, that type of thing? Well, the truth is, I have copyrighted a few songs and a few of my works over the years, but I more or less kind of just gave up on that. By copyright law, the way I understand it, and I'm no lawyer, so, you check this stuff out on your own. Don't take my word as the final word. But the way I understand it is that anything you write, the moment you write it, technically it is copyrighted. The problem is you have to prove it. So, like if somebody stole your work and you wanted to prove it, you have to have some sort of way to prove it in court. Well, that's what registering your copyright means. In other words, it's already copyrighted, but you have to register your copyright. So that's what you're doing when you copyright something. You're registering your copyright you already have. So with that in mind, I don't worry about it too much. And the reason is, first of all, I doubt I've written any kind of hit song that's going to take off and be worth $1 million. You never know. Anything could happen. But if it did happen, I believe I have enough proof in my arsenal that I could go to court and prove it if I ever felt like I needed to defend it. So basically, it boils down to proof of your copyright. And if you're able to prove it, at least in my opinion, now this is just my opinion, you understand, this is not a legal opinion. At least in my opinion, I feel like I would be okay because I've got all kinds of documentation, computer-wise, CDs and print, stuff I sell on my website, my videos now is another good way to prove things. I feel like I'm okay. So that's how, I protect myself. One of the simple ways to, that people claim will work, and again, this is just people talking, is to send yourself a registered letter and you never open it so that it has the postal date and all that stuff on it, the registration with the post office, that type of thing. And you have your work inside that letter. So you mail it back to yourself, basically. Then you have that on file, and supposedly that's supposed to be good enough to take to court type thing too. Whether that truly is good enough, I don't know. I've just heard that. So I'm just talking out loud here. As you can tell, I'm not the authority on that regard. But I'm also not too terribly worried about it. Okay, his next question. He's wanting to build some guitars, and he's worked in a hardwood lumber store for over a year, and I'm saying, you lucky dog. That's where you should work if you want to build guitars. And he says he's really come to respect and admire the Paduke. He's referring to my video series number 225 and 348. How beautiful those instruments are and the way they boom and make good sound. He's wanting to build different style guitars. He's wanting to build parlor guitars and in an OM model. And he's asking me, would the Paduke work well for those? Well, in my opinion, I'm not saying Paduke's the best wood you can get. I'm not saying that exactly. What I'm saying is it's as good as any wood you'll ever find. It's really good wood for building instruments. It really is. It's got the right properties. The biggest negative of Paduke is it's a little hard to bend. It's not real easy to bend, not crazy hard. And the other negative would be, well, there's actually two more negatives. The first one would be filling the pores. you can fill it with a lot of different things, but you got to be careful what you fill it with. Otherwise, you could, be like putting a blanket on the guitar. So I just bite the bullet and fill it with finish. So it's a lot of work. So filling those pores is a pain. And then the third thing about Padauk is the fact that the color bleeds out of it real easily. So those are the negatives of the Padauk, but the sound-wise, it'd be really hard to beat. So I think yes, the answer is yes, that would work great for those guitars you're talking about. And his last question, which I have not read yet, let me see if I can read it real quick. In terms of spruce, he says, in my experience, what is the most resonant spruce? Well, the truth is on that, I don't know that I could be honestly telling you the truth on that. I don't really think I have a strong absolute guarantee that this spruce is better than that spruce. I've heard really good spruce in all the different spruces. I've heard really good tops made from all the different spruces. I've heard really good tops made from redwood. I've heard really good tops made from western cedar. I think probably the most important factor, the purists, if you will tell you the Adirondack spruce is the best. That's what I use. I think it's incredibly good. It's hard to beat. It's also a little harder to come by. The Old Standard Wood Company here in Missouri sells Adirondack spruce. So Sitka spruce, though, is very good. I don't think I could just say you have to use Adirondack spruce or you have to use this or use that. Tell you what, western cedar is really good. Redwood is really good. I build instruments from both of those and they sound awesome. So it's kind of like toss up your coin and whatever lands is what you use. It really doesn't make that much difference. Basically, the rest of his comments were just complimentary toward the channel. He enjoys our music. Was talking about the Patreon account there, that he may try to support that down the road. He's been out of work with the COVID thing. And I say to anybody watching in terms of the Patreon support, certainly if you feel like you're getting a lot out of these videos and you're able to support it, I certainly appreciate it, because there's a ton of overhead on this. It really is. There's a ton of overhead. I've got a full-time person pretty much just dedicated to videos, and I'm paying a salary there, so that'll give you some idea. I'm not crying poor mouth. I'm not begging for money. I'm just saying that's there, and if you feel like it's something you can do to help us out, we certainly appreciate it. We really do. This next question is from Scott Nielsen. And Scott's question is, do I use sanding sealer on rosewood before shooting it with lacquer? I would say it's a flip of a coin. Whichever way it lands, you'll be fine. Whether you do it or you don't do it, I don't think it's that big an issue. In my experience, I'm just telling you my experience. Doesn't mean it's right. It's just my experience. Sanding sealers are just, I don't see any point in them at all. People claim they do this and they do that, and all of their claims that I see are just false. That's just the way it is. That's just my personal belief, is they're false. They don't do anything. If anything, they're just watered down lacquer, or they're just lacquer with an additional filler in it, and it just doesn't do anything. It still shrinks. It still follows, follows the pores just like the regular lacquer does. I don't see a bit of difference. I really don't. The only maybe advantage to it is that it may sand off a little bit easier, so you might get to a level just a hair quicker. I don't see much difference, honestly. So you can, in my opinion, you could do either one. You could do it or not do it, and I don't think you're going to see much difference. That's my opinion. Should I mask off the bridge area or spray over it and scrape away the finish? Well, the way they do it in the factories is they mask it off. They've got it all figured out to the point where they think they know. But as we all know, sometimes they're wrong. And typically, they only mask off an area that's just slightly smaller than the bridge, and then they just glue it down to that one little bare spot, and the rest of the bridge is sitting on top of the lacquer. I definitely wouldn't do that. I would make sure that your bridge is sitting on bare wood. However you achieve that is up to you. I prefer, the reason I don't mask it off and the reason I do cut it out and scrape it later is because of another statement I made in a previous video, and that is the most important thing about your instrument. After you take all the care to build it and you've taken all the time to carve it perfectly and all of those things are completely done and they're finished. Now the very most important thing, there's nothing more important, is the intonation. So that's why I prefer to float the bridge, even take a day or two sometimes. Let the string sit on there. I tie it to the tail pin, as you know. I just make a temporary floating tail piece to tie the strings to. I float the bridge around until I get the intonation absolutely perfect. Then I mark it, and then I cut the finish away. That's why I do it, because intonation is the single most important thing there is on your instrument, in my opinion. And, if you start watching things about the technical aspects of notes and music and things, I just watched one this morning that just reinforced what I've always believed that much more. Again, that the intonation is the most important thing. And that is about the relationships of notes and their frequencies and their tones and all that stuff, and about the dissonant notes that you get and all these things. Whenever you start to understand how all that works, then you will know that intonation is absolutely the single most important thing there is on an instrument, period. You can talk about strings, you can talk about this or that. Intonation is where it's at, period. So, with that in mind, you do what you want, but I'm always going to float my bridge, mark it, and then scrape the finish off. It's a lot more work. That's why the factories don't do it, because it's a lot more work. And they just get, in my opinion, they just get in the ballpark on their intonation. Their intonation's pretty good. Most of the time it's pretty dang good, but it's not necessarily perfect. And there's the difference. The next question here is from Woody Stewart. Woody is very complimentary about my videos, and he said that he needs to work on a J50, which was exactly like he said the J45 that I did in video number 417. He says it's not a sunburst, but otherwise it's very, very similar. He's talking about the plywood bridge plate and whether or not if he should replace the one in his guitar, because it has a plywood bridge plate also. Well, I guess it boils down to a lot of factors. One of the factors would be, is it creating a problem on the instrument in terms of, is there a big bulge there, that kind of thing. If that's the case, for sure, I'd probably replace it. If it's not creating any mechanical, physical problem, I'd say then it's almost a 50-50 on whether or not you think you have the skill level to do it. If you've got the skill level to do it, and you've got the confidence to do it, etc. and so forth, then I'd say it'd be a good thing. Would I recommend you do it just offhand? I'd say probably not. But on the other hand, if you know how to do it and you do a good job at it, you'll like it when you're done. So I hate to be that non-committal, but that's kind of the truth of the whole matter. If it's definitely causing a mechanical issue and the top is bulging up and all that kind of thing, then I'd for sure fix it. And I would replace it with a good sound quality bridge plate. And as you know, Padauk is very good because Padauk is very stiff. It resists bending very well, and it transfers sound really well. So there you go. So Woody, I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much for watching the videos. This next comment is from a fellow in Toronto, Canada. I'm going to butcher his name, and I'm sorry. His name is Anatoly Hopici. I would assume it's Hopici. And anyway, Anatoly's question is, he's got a 60-year-old mandolin, and It has the plastic binding on it. He said everything's up in pretty good shape. It's all attached, but the binding itself is cracked in a lot of places. Is there any way to restore that or fix that? Well, I'll be honest, I don't know that I've ever really tried to quote unquote fix that, but I would say chances are slim to zero pretty much. You might be able to do some sort of a chemical deal which would potentially melt the plastic back together, but typically that could cause just as many problems as it would fix. It might cause the plastic to dry out, crack even worse, come off the instrument. It could also melt the plastic and make a big mess. I mean, there's just all kinds of potential problems with trying to fix that. I guess my thoughts are, if it's not coming loose, I'd just plain leave it alone. If it's coming loose, then about the only real solution is to just replace all of it. Sorry, I don't really have a better answer for that. Hope that helps you. Thank you for watching my videos. Another viewer asked the question about the Renaissance wax, and this guy's name, I believe, is Gerald Sullivan. He goes by Sully. But anyway, his question is Renaissance wax. He's ordered some based on my recommendation, and he says, I've been using the crud they sell at the big box stores, and he wants to know if he should remove all that and how to remove it. Of course, this is an old one, and I'm sure he's already done whatever he's done at this point. I'm sorry that it's taken this long, Sully, to get back to you. But I don't really see much point in trying to remove the liquid polishes that have been put on there. If anything, you might just want to clean it with a damp cloth. You might want to use a very light, maybe dish detergent in there, just a drop or two, and just clean it real good. Dry it real good, and then just put on the Renaissance wax and buff it out, and keep that rag turning and buff it off almost as fast as you put it on. You don't want to let it sit on there very long before you take it off. You'll find that the Renaissance wax is far superior to the liquid polishes. The difference in tone can also be tremendous on an acoustic instrument, but it really depends on the instrument. Hope that helps you. Thank you for watching my videos. This next question is from Ed DeVito. Ed watches the videos, and he says that he has heard me say many times I'm not an expert on finishes, which I stand by that statement pretty much, because I don't feel like I am at all. I've used just about every kind of finish you can think of, and it's kind of like politicians with me. I pretty much hate them all. That's, equal hate on both sides of the fence. It doesn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat. I pretty much think the very best politician should be in jail. I pretty much think the very best finish is touted far and above and beyond what its real capabilities are. So that's my opinion on finishes. None of them are all that great. Some of them just have less issues. So I go with the less issues thing. Shellac, so in other words, he wanted me to kind of run down a list of these finishes here and tell what I think about them. Well, shellac is a great finish. It's used in the French polish finishes with the alcohol and the whole bit, and it builds up, makes a beautiful finish. But the problem with shellac is that it's not very strong. It's very scratchy. You can scratch it real easy. And the worst thing about the shellac finish is that when you put your arm on it and you sweat, it will turn milky white. Sometimes that will clear right back up and you won't notice anything, and other times the milky color will stay forever. I've even seen a lot of instruments come in that have shellac finishes, and you can actually see their hair imprints in the finish, hair from their arm. So that'll give you my opinion on shellac, and hopefully you'll understand. Shellac is great for little touch-up spots, like say you need to fill just a little tiny hole or something. It might be good for that. It's not a bad undercoat, a first undercoat for your instruments. A lot of oil varnishes are put over the top of shellac. You can even put shellac on and then spray lacquer over it, I believe. I don't think there's any problem with that. I just don't use shellac all that much. I use it in a couple of places. Like there's that amber shellac that kind of fits the yellow gold tones of a lot of instruments. So I use it for touch up a lot of times just to kind of match the color. So anyway, I'm not a huge fan of shellac. It's got its uses. I don't think it's a good top coat for any instrument. I really don't. The French polished instruments sound great. They look great until you really use them. And then they don't. Varnish, just plain old varnish, and I will call that oil varnish in this case. Oil varnishes are excellent finishes. They're probably the overall best acoustical finish you can put on your instrument, saving shellac. Shellac's a good acoustical sound also. But again, the shellac has the problems I've already mentioned, where the oil varnish doesn't have those problems. It's a more durable finish. It lasts a long time, more or less immune to the moisture once it's cured. It's a good finish. So oil varnish is a very good choice. Probably the cheapest, quickest, easiest oil varnish there is out there that you could use on your instrument would be the True Oil. Most other oil varnishes have the problem of not curing forever. They take forever. The True Oil varnish has many more dryers in it, and it will dry much quicker. So that's, if I was just going to recommend just for the casual refinisher, the True Oil varnish would be the way to go, I think. Now, it takes a lot to build that up, and you can sand through it really fast because it doesn't build up really fast. So it does take some work to put on oil varnish, but any oil varnish is quite a bit of work. Lacquer, which would be, there's different kinds of all of these things now. There's water-based and a lot of these different things, like water-based lacquer now, and there's the nitrocellulose lacquer. I still use the old school nitrocellulose lacquer. I would say it's, on a fairly equal par with the oil varnish in terms of sound. The nitrocellulose lacquer is very durable finish. It's a good finish overall. It builds up fairly well, but it does take a lot of coats for it to build up too. It doesn't fill pores well at all. That's probably the biggest negative of lacquer. Lacquer has this weird property. Why? I have no idea. And if somebody could explain it to me in some sort of common sense terms, layman's terms, not some technical jargon, I would love to know why. When you have a pinhole and you spray lacquer over it, that pinhole will get bigger. You spray the next coat on it, it gets bigger. It gets bigger. It emphasizes all the defects. I don't know why lacquer does that, but it does. And it takes gazillions of coats to get over that. And you finally will get over it and you'll level it and it'll be fine, but it takes a bazillion coats. That's why it's so hard to put the lacquer over the Paduc wood, because the pore holes are so large that it just, it's a nightmare. It's a true nightmare, it really is. I probably should just use oil varnish on Paduc and be done with it. I really should. And I might start doing that because it's a much better pore filler than lacquer is. Polyurethane, it's a plastic type finish. I actually did one instrument in polyurethane, and I'll be honest, the sound was pretty darn good and it was pretty darn easy. For some reason, it's frowned upon on instruments. Not very many instrument companies, I don't think, use polyurethane. But the truth of the matter is, if I'm being honest and not being snobby, which is kind of the tendency with all luthiers and instrument builders, the polyurethane did pretty darn good on the one instrument I put it on. And honestly, it sounded fine. So that's the only experience I've had with polyurethane. I guess I would recommend against it just because all instrument companies, builders, luthiers recommend against it. But on the other hand, the one experience I had with it was perfectly fine. So I guess that's all I can really say about polyurethane. His last comment just says he hopes the arthritis is in check and God bless. Well, Ed, back to you. Not so much. I still haven't met with hand surgeon yet, but that's coming up. So, thank you for that question. I hope that my opinions on those finishes helps you. If you hate all finishes, put a comment in the in the doobly-doo down there too. Just like politicians, I don't like finishes. This is an old one from back July 24th from Matt Bartolone. Bartolone, I guess, Bartolone, and he's from Chesterfield, Michigan, I guess. MI? Is that Michigan? Or is it Minnesota? I can't remember. I think it's Michigan. Anyway, I think Minnesota's MN, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. First of all, he's very complimentary about the videos and things, and he's learned a lot of tips and tricks. He's using a lot of the products I recommended, which are the Semichrome, which I got from Randy Schardiger, just so you know. Renaissance Wax, Canopy Glue, and Canopy Glue was recommended by a viewer. Renaissance Wax, I think I actually saw that on the fellow over in England. I forget his name now. Anyway, that big shop over there used the Renaissance Wax and recommended it. So those are where I got those recommendations. After using them, I stick to them, and they're great. The Canopy Glue is really good for binding. Again, that was a viewer suggestion. It worked great. I'm still using Canopy Glue. It works great, but I've also come upon this Super Phatic glue. And I'm telling you what, this stuff here does basically what the Canopy Glue does, and even does it a little bit more on steroids, if you will. This stuff here is really good stuff. I haven't used it on such a wide variety of things yet, but so far, everything I've used it on has been really good. It's a little thinner. It wicks into cracks a little bit better. Similar, not quite as much as CA glue, but a little more similar to CA glue. So if you wanted to glue something, a wood to wood type glue joint, and you can't really get tight bond in there, you might try the Super Phatic. This apparently is more available overseas. I've only found one source so far here in the US. I just searched on eBay and found that. He said he's also bought my t-shirts, and he said they are very fine quality, just like I told you they were. Actually, those t-shirts, they just feel really good. I spent the bucks on the t-shirts and got the very best quality shirt they had, and you will notice a difference compared to your average t-shirt, I promise you. He says, now my question. This question has come up more than any question of any product I've ever shown ever, and that is this taper gauge. It just keeps coming up, and people just keep asking about it. And I've shown it on lots of videos and talked about it lots of times, but people just keep missing it apparently. And it's the in size, and I'll read the number 4830-1E. I just order them off eBay. You can find them in other sources. I think Zorro was another place I found them. I don't know if that's it probably won't focus on that. Somewhere in there it might focus. But anyway, it measures, it's just a thin taper gauge. It goes from 10 thousandths down here to 150 thousandths. Yes, you can use feeler gauges for checking your string height, but the problem with feeler gauges is you have to get combinations of the right feelers and stick them in there and all that kind of thing. This thing here, you just poke it in the hole and it tells you what it is. You don't have to guess well, I think that's about 10 thousandths, so you take out a 10 thousandths, and then it turns out it's bigger than that, so then you got to put a 2 in with it and see if it's a 12. This just tells you. You just stick it in and it tells you what it is. I like it more up at the 12th fret. I sent one to my buddy Randy, and Randy used it more toward the 1st fret. I typically at the 1st fret, I still do, just use a pick. It's just handy, it's fast, because I can slide it in there, bingo, the pick is the right height. And I'm talking a thin pick. Thin pick is roughly 18 thousandths of an inch. It might depend on your particular thin pick, but the ones that I've tested in the past, they've all been about 18 thousandths. So, At the first fret, that's how I do it, but at the 12th fret, I definitely use this, and I use this for other things too. I'm trying to think of what other applications that I have used it for, and maybe trying to fill a crack or something. You can slide this into the crack and decide how wide the crack is, and then you can cut a piece of wood to that thickness and sand it to that thickness. Anyway, it is a very handy tool. But just like all precision tools, it's expensive. Don't go looking for this for $10. You ain't gonna find it. Not a good version of it anyway. It's about a $66 tool. So there you go. I hope that helps you. Matt, thank you for watching my videos. Well, I'm ashamed of myself, but these things have been sitting on the shelf for a while. I'm gonna go through viewer gifts now, and if you've been wondering why I haven't acknowledged your gift, it's just because we've been so doggone busy. I just set a pile of things over on a shelf here, and I'm now finally getting to them. And when I say finally, this is just about 1 month old. This came in August 18th. Dan Lipsi, and he's from Pennsylvania. And Dan sent me a couple of his recordings. He said he appreciates my music, and I was responsible for him starting the mandolin at the young age of 72. Well, Dan, thank you so much for these very wonderful CDs. These are some music that he has put together, it looks like, and played on or whatever. He said the one concert we did included a performance of Carol Barnett's The World Beloved, a bluegrass mass. So anyway, these look like they're inspirational gospel type music, and I appreciate it very much, Dan. I will definitely put these in the vehicle, and the next time I'm in the vehicle, I'll be listening to them. Sorry it took me so long to acknowledge them. Thank you very kindly. This next thing is from a viewer. His name is John Hansen, and he's from Michigan as well. Got a lot of folks up in Michigan. And he sent me some very nice colorblind glasses. And they're incredibly dark. You almost can't see inside the building here when you put them on. I mean, especially at first. Your eyes sort of adjust to them over time, but they're just impossible to use indoors. They don't even begin to work indoors. You have to be out in a bright sunlight to use these things. I already have a pair that I had purchased off of eBay myself quite a while back, and I believe these are very, very similar. These are a slightly different color lens. I think the ones that I have are more plain red looking. These appear to be more of a different color than that. I don't know what color they are exactly, but I would say these are more of a purple red or something. I really don't know. But they look different, and these are even darker, I think, than the ones I have. So you have to wear these color correction glasses outdoors in the bright sunlight. They don't work indoors at all. Now, I know that they have come up with an innovation where they have the ones for indoors as well. But let me tell you the dilemma with that. And the dilemma is, after getting the glasses that I bought off of eBay, and they showed me so many colors, I was very excited. I put a video out on that. If you have seen it, I don't know. I was really thinking it was great, and it was going to really help me with my color. So the more I wore them, though, and the more I talked to people, the more I realized that they truly distorted the colors a lot. I talked to my eye doctor about that, and the eye doctor said, yes, they actually do distort the colors a ton. You see a lot of colors, and you can physically pass the color tests because it will let you see the numbers in those color charts, but you're just not seeing the proper colors. And so it's like, what's that do for me? Nothing, pretty much. So, but this was, of course, before I talked to my eye doctor, so I thought, well, just because this shows me colors at least, even though they're maybe not the right colors, perhaps if I spend the big bucks for the Enchroma glasses and get my prescription built into them and everything, then that would be great. So that's what I did. Took months and months and months. I mean, like 3 months to get these glasses. It took forever. When I finally got them, spent the big bucks, by the way. There were at nearly $500. A lot of money. And when I got them, it was just like stepping on a plum. Nothing. It was just nothing. It was, you know, they didn't do anything for me whatsoever. You know, all this rave and, you know, this hype that you see on the YouTube videos. Granted, if you are really colorblind like I am, and you put on the inexpensive ones from Amazon or eBay, and you put those on, they really do show you a lot of colors. There's no question about that. But they're just not the right colors. So unless they're the right colors, what's the point? You know. So anyway, I appreciate the sentiment. I appreciate you sending them to me, but unfortunately they just don't really work for me. Thank you so much, John, for watching my videos. Thank you for being a loyal friend, and I appreciate it very much. Huge box. Huge box. This just came in yesterday. Mark Klassing from Quincy, Illinois. Well, Mark, you're scaring me with your box because you sent me a lot of things that I would think almost means like you're quitting music entirely, because you sent me a lot of your finger picks and thumb picks and things like that. And those are things that typically people keep, you know, if you're playing music at all. So either these are, you just have a ton of it and these are just extras you never use, or you're quitting music entirely, which I hope is not the case. But anyway, he did send me a ton of, finger picks, thumb picks. He sent me these unique ones that I had never even heard of or seen. Butterfly picks. I'm probably the last one to know anything. I'm always that way, so you may all be totally familiar with this. But these are kind of a wire design, and now they're all hooked together, wouldn't you know, like this. And my assumption, and it's only an assumption, is you put them on something like this, and then it rolls off of the string. That's my guess. Don't know anything about them. Never saw them before till I got these right here. So the butterfly picks, I haven't Googled them yet or looked them up on YouTube or anything like that. I know there's plenty of sources out there to find out about them. But I appreciate you sending them to me. I'm going to actually let the band pick through these, because these finger picks and thumb picks, several of the members of the band use these. I don't particularly use those, but you know, that'll give them a chance there to pick up some good treasures there. He sent a brand new little armrest. It has suction cups that you would stick on the corner of your guitar, like so. Your arm then lays on this. It protects the finish of the guitar. It also is a little bit more rounded than the corner of a sharp, binding type guitar. So that's a really nice thing. It's made out of real high quality wood, as you can see. I can't tell if that's, with the stain on there. My guess is that it's walnut, but I'm not positive about that. It could be an exotic wood. Very nice, though. He sent a bunch of strings. Again, this makes me think, are you just quitting music entirely? Because he sent a lot of strings. Almost all of these are electric guitar strings. I will let Caleb look through that pile, because he will probably enjoy some of that. And we'll use whatever Caleb doesn't want. We'll just use them here in the shop and work on, instruments that come in the shop. I thought this was humorous. You can see the envelope there, and you can probably tell the color of the envelope, which I can't do, as you've already heard. And I just thought it was a light pale blue envelope, and Caleb goes, it's a pink envelope. Not that it matters. It doesn't matter what color the envelope is in. But he sent me a very nice note here too. He just wanted to support the channel, and he sent me a box of stuff that he's accumulated over the years. Maybe I could use some of it. So Mark, we definitely can use it. If you saw my videos or my previous comments about wearing the pink shirt to work, you will know why that pink envelope is funny. And I think I covered that story, at least in my genetic defect video, if you want to check that out. He sent some brass pins, and you can't really see them through that plastic. Let's see if I can open that up here. So these are brass string pins. if it'll focus on that. I don't know if it will or not. Anyway, brass string pins. And so those are really nice. And we'll have those in file. And he sent several straps. Actually, there's 4 straps. And they're all really nice. Really nice looking straps. There's a solid leather one, and then you know, I guess these other ones would be considered cloth or nylon type straps. Very nice, 4 of them. Some tuning keys for a classical guitar. We'll put those in our file cabinet over there and have them for spare parts. He sent some saddles and a nut, and we can keep those. A couple of the stretch type capos, and we'll keep those on file. And then finally another saddle. So thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate it very much. Mark from Quincy, Illinois. We really appreciate it. And we'll try to put this stuff to good use. I know the band is going to want to dig through those finger picks and thumb picks. Thank you. We had a visitor at the shop recently, brought me a guitar that I worked on while he was here. His name is Samson Goins from Ohio. And Samson gave me this, which is really nice. It is the extra thick CA glue. It's the Bob Smith Industries. I've used Bob Smith in the past once or twice, but recently rediscovered it, if you will, and it's really good CA glue. I recommend Bob Smith CA glue highly. It works really well. So thank you, Samson. Samson, I think, really did enjoy his stay here at our retreat, and he's already said he's going to come back and try to stay longer. So thank you. I got this from an anonymous sender. It's a 2 cherries chisel. It's a curved blade on this chisel. It's for working on guitar braces and things, and it will come in very handy. Generally, when I get things like this that have no name on them, I suspect Colin. Colin has sent me a lot of stuff over the years. A lot of stuff, and a lot of it has proved incredibly helpful. So Colin, I'm almost sure this has to be you. Thank you very much. It's really nice. That 2 cherry chisels, I'm sold on them. I think they're really a good product. And he apparently got this one from Stu Mac. So therefore, he probably paid a good chunk of change for that. I don't mean to pick on Stu Mac, but they don't give their stuff away. They're a good company, and I'm definitely a fan of Stu Mac. I buy a lot of stuff from them. So don't hear me say anything negative. Randy Shardiger, my buddy Randy, sent me these. You know, I sent him the taper gauge, and he sent me these. I saw him using these in a video where you slide this as you're pulling frets to try to keep the tear out to a minimal. You can slide this along the fret, and it'll go under the crown of the fret on both sides of the tang of the fret, and then you can put your tool on top of this and squeeze the fret up, and this helps hold the chips down and keeps the fretboard from chipping out so much. These are made by Stu Mac, again. He sent me 2 of them, one of them in the 10 thousandths gauge and one of them in a 20 thousandths gauge. And that would depend on how wide or thick your tang is on your fret. So Randy, my buddy, thank you very much. I didn't expect you to send me anything in return, but I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Now, I'm sure you guys will see these being used in a future video. The next gift is from Markus Jabloski in Germany. And Markus has been a viewer and fan of the channel for a long time. He's very complimentary. He says that he's a guitar hobbyist for over 40 years. He is proud owner of 27 guitars and 2 mandolins and an electric bass. You just don't have enough guitars, Markus. You always need one more. And probably you need one with Rosa in the headstock. Shameless promotion, just shameless. With so many guitars, I do smaller things like adjusting the action, and he polishes the frets himself and those sort of things. He has seen me where we use the Post-it notes and we stick them on both sides of the fret and we polish the fret that way. And to be honest, that's really handy. It's not very difficult to do. But he is recommending these. I think it was not exactly ironic, but extremely coincidental that I got these on the very same day that I got Randy's gift. And these also have to do with a very similar thing, and that is working on the frets, on the fretboard. So you put this has a wider slot in it, and it's not open on the end, so you can't slide it through the fret like you can with Randy's. These are meant to go on both sides of the fret and cover the fretboard, and that way you can polish the fret here without having to stick on the Post-it notes type of thing. So we're going to give these a try. Markus, I really appreciate it. Thank you for all the kind words. Good luck to you, my friend. He says he's learned a lot from the channel, and I'm glad to hear that. And thank you very kindly for the gift. I'm sure you'll probably be seeing these in a future video too. So we'll try to use them as soon as we can in an upcoming video. And Randy's gift as well. Mike Broussard sent us a nice letter. He says, and he addressed it to all three of us. Dear Jerry, Melissa, and Caleb, I've been subscribed for over a year. I've not seen all of the earlier videos, but I've certainly seen a bunch of them. I've used your techniques to repair ukes, fix bridges and things like that, it says. Apparently he's acquiring, plenty of C-clamps. He said he, had emailed me earlier and that I responded with some advice on a tenor guitar that he was restringing for a friend. He's enclosed, he has put some spare parts, and he's put in quite a few spare parts. First though, he sent me a whole box full of these Pentel lead refills. I mean, this is a whole box full. Gee whiz, that's a lifetime supply. I'm pretty sure I'll never use all those in the rest of my life. That's a lot of them right there. I'm too cheap to buy them in a big box like that. I just buy one a little tube at a time. I'm pretty sure I'll never need to buy another tube. Thank you so much. That's awesome. And they fit my favorite pencil, which is laying right here. So I'll be filling it up and using them. He sent a bunch of tuning key parts. These will go in my file cabinet there for the tuning keys. And he sent a bunch of gear parts for the tuners also. And those will also be filed as, if you watched my, I think it was my previous Shop Talk. If you watched that one, you'll see how I organized all of those spare parts and put them in cabinets. And that's where all this stuff will end up. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mike. And Mike, he knows I have a problem pronouncing these names, so he phonetically spelled out his last name, Broussard. So thank you, Mike, from Shreveport, Louisiana. My friends, I got another gift from a customer. His name is Grant. He's an over-the-road truck driver. And what did he send me? He sent me that. Did it focus? It's even got my name embossed on it. Yes, it's a blue chip pick. There's the blue chip side of it. If it'll focus, there it goes. And these, they don't give these away. I've always wanted one of these, but I guess I was just too cheap to buy one. They're expensive. They wear like iron. I've been playing with a prime tone pick for quite a while now. These prime tone picks are pretty good picks. I'm pretty happy with them. They also have a little bit of a roughness to them, so they don't spin around in your hand. And they wear pretty good, but you can even see the corners of that one have wore down pretty much. And I don't know, I haven't played that much this year, and this is a reasonably new pick. So I thought I'd just, for grins, just play a tune here with the prime tone pick and then play a tune with the blue chip pick. I have not even touched this to a string yet. It's brand new. I've never touched it to a string. So I don't know what I'm going to hear, if there's any difference at all. Actually, I doubt we'll hear much of a tone difference, but I'm hoping that the blue chip pick will wear better than the other picks that I've always used, because I wear them out. As you know, I play hard and I wear them out really quickly. So I'm hoping the blue chip pick, everyone says they just wear like iron. So that's what I'm really hoping to get out of the blue chip, more than the tone difference. But let's just see if there is a tone difference. We're going to play something right now. Okay, we'll start out with the prime tone pick. This is the one I've been playing all along. And let's try a little bit of Nashville blues and see what this is like. was the prime tone pick. This pick is different shaped. I'm not really used to it yet, but I'll give it my best shot and see what it's like. Honestly can't say I heard a huge difference in tone. This one's got a good tone, I will say that. There's no question about that. So I'm real happy with it. The truth is, what I really wanted it for anyway is the wearability. So I'm hoping this thing will wear like iron like they say it does. And of course, this being a tri-cornered pick, I can, switch corners too. So that would be helpful. But Grant, thank you very much. I'm glad you were happy with the setup I did on your mandolin. Well, that concludes all of the viewer gifts. So what do I have to talk about now? Well, I'm going to talk about the snobs. The last part of the video for chocolate has not yet aired. Today is Thursday, and it won't air until tomorrow, Friday. But they're already starting to gang up on me, telling me... This is my favorite comment of all, and if this doesn't prove to you that they're snobs, then I don't know how to prove it to you. And I mean, this is a old school, old boys club, and when I say old boys, there's women in it too, don't get me wrong. I don't mean it as a sexist thing. I mean it's the good old boy type mentality where if you're not in this club, then you don't count, period. Zero, you don't count. It's just like you're scum. And I mean, they treat you that way. They really seriously do. And I'm not making this up. Here's the comment, and you can decide for yourself. You should stick to guitars and mandolins. You don't know the first thing about violins, and you have violated all the rules of working on violins. Okay? Read between the lines. What did that just say to you? Violins are much better than guitars and mandolins, and that I'm good enough to work on guitars and mandolins, but I'm not good enough to work on their precious violins. That's what it says. Now, if that doesn't tell you they're snobs, then what is it? Now, tell me which, miraculous tree that violin came from that the guitars and mandolins don't come from. Did they somehow get theirs descended directly from heaven when they built their instruments? It's just an old school club. Honestly, the truth of the matter is, folks, and I'm not exaggerating here. In fact, I'm probably understating it tremendously. I charged in the neighborhood of, less than $2,000 for that repair for chocolate. I don't even know what the final numbers were. Melissa handles most of that at this point. I'm going to say it was in the neighborhood of $1,800. Melissa can put it on the screen. I don't mind telling you exactly what we charged. To me, I feel like even with the free time I gave them, I still feel like I was compensated well enough. I gave them probably 10 or 12 hours of free time, which I guarantee you would never happen if you took it to one of these good old boy violin shops. And I guarantee you, and I'm looking at you directly in the face, I'm telling you straight up and down, they wouldn't repair that violin for less than $10,000, and I'll bet you there are places that would have charged them $20,000 to $50,000 to repair that violin. I'm not exaggerating. It's a closed loop. They know I've infiltrated their livelihood. They know that the jig is up, that they shouldn't be able to get away with these crazy prices they charge these people. It's just totally ridiculous. They don't give Stradivari enough credit. They think they give him all the credit, and they don't give him even half the credit that he's due, because they think that he would still be doing exactly the same thing, exactly the same way he did 300 years ago, when the man was a total innovator and changed everything, and would still be innovating and changing things today if he were alive. But they don't see it that way. They are sheep. They are blindly following the leader sheep, and that's it. They've been indoctrinated. They go through their quote unquote classical violin training, and it's just black and white. They've got these blinders on, and that's all they can see is straight ahead and follow the leader. That's it. They are sheep. They are snobs. It is ridiculous. That's my final word on it. You can make up your own decision. And if you want to spend $50,000 for what I charge $2,000 for, go ahead. I have no problem with that. Thank you for watching.